What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some insane battles in the Open Great League featuring 3 Pokemon running the newly buffed Cross Chop in Shadow Golduck, a 100% IV Purified Teddiursa, and a 100% IV Purified Machop. Obviously this isn't the strongest team you'll ever see, but some of the wins I was able to pull off with this team were absolutely ridiculous. So with that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. What's the most random 100% IV Pokemon you've powered up for the Go Battle League? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, we need Shadow Golduck into Dugong. So this is a positive matchup for us, but slightly awkward because I'm running a 4-turn fast move up against a 3-turn fast move. If I want to throw it on good timing, they will actually be able to go for an Icy Wind first. Whilst this is resisted damage, it doesn't do much. It's going to debuff my attack. But now we do go for 2 Confusions, go for a Cross Chop, grab a shield advantage from the opponent. We're going to fire off the second Cross Chop immediately because I don't want them to make it to another charge move before we throw that second Cross Chop. At this point, I'm happy to let the Golduck go down. We put them very low to the point where we can just come in with the Machop and go for a full Karate Chop farm down, getting a huge energy advantage. And let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent's going to come in with Skeledirge, which completely walls all of our energy, certainly not ideal for us, so I'm going to swap into my Teddiursa, and likewise, they also wall the energy on Teddiursa, but I do at least have lick damage. But the opponent's going to swap into a Shadow Galley, but they're still running Confusion, which is a lot worse for me because they're dealing huge damage here. The opponent committing to a full Confusion farm down, but we're actually able to lick farm them down instead, make it to a Cross Chop. This is double resisted damage, but we are 1 stage boosted. We can now come in with the Machop, go for a return, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I still have a shield remaining, so I can now just safely shield up the charge move coming from this Skeledirge, and I will be able to make it to a Cross Chop, and from this range, even double resisted, and actually everything resisted from the Skeledirge here, we're still going to take them out with a Cross Chop, and I'm able to take that game. So we just took out a Skeledirge with only double resisted charge moves there, which is pretty insane. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Venusaur in the lead. This actually isn't bad for us whatsoever. The opponent throws an alignment, not very good, but it doesn't actually make a difference. We can still take them out with just 6 Confusions here, so either way, they were never going to make it to back-to-back charge moves. They're now going to come in with a Lantern. I'm going to fire off 1 Cross Chop here, and then I will swap out of this matchup. We're going to swap into Machop. Of course, Teddiursa does have the Trailblaze to hit for super effective damage, so it's my slightly better response. But Thunderbolt coming through does a lot of damage, but they swap into a Snarl Mandibuzz. This actually isn't so bad for us. I'm going to go for the Cross Chop here. Cross Chop is going to grab a shield from the opponent, which is huge for me. We're now going to shield up the Aerial Ace. I'm just going to full send the return here. I actually don't know if return does more damage than 2 Cross Chops anymore. I think it did before, but at this point it probably doesn't because Cross Chop did of course get the buff this season, but it doesn't really matter. We can now come in with the Teddiursa. I'm thinking actually these are resisted licks, but they're dealing decent damage here. I might be able to fully lick farm down the Mandibuzz at this point, and I am actually I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go for the Cross Chop, play it safe. I should still be able to just barely outpace this Lantern if the opponent threw straight away, in which case I'm able to make it to a Trailblaze in time. This is super effective. It's not the hardest hitting move. It boosts our attack. They do get the Spark Farm down, but we left with a Cross Chop already loaded, so I can just fire it off straight away into the Lantern, taking out the Lantern, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we see a Gligar in the lead. So this is a slightly positive matchup for us, but of course, they will outpace me quite drastically to the charge moves before I make it to a Liquidation. So a bit unfortunate there, and the opponent's actually going to swap into a Poliwrath. So I'm going to go for a Liquidation here. This is probably a mistake, but I was trying to go for a defense drop. We don't get it, and that's really unfortunate. Of course, Liquidation also costs more energy than Cross Chop, so yeah, don't really know why I threw that there, but it doesn't really matter. They shielded anyways. We are now going to no-shield. The opponent goes for Scald. That does big damage. It drops my attack, and they can just fully counter-farm me down, which is certainly not ideal for me. I'm hoping I can just come in and lick farm them down with my Teddiursa, and I'm able to do exactly that. Now they come back in with the Gligar, so I'm thinking they possibly have something like a Whiscash in the back. It would make somewhat sense, so I'm going to overfarm in this matchup. I'm then going to swap, catch the charge move. I didn't want to boost my attack and then swap out and clear the debuff, so instead, clear the buff there. So instead, we're now going to fire off the Trailblaze. If it is the Whiscash, this is going to be game over for the opponent. All I have to do here is overfarm in this matchup and make sure they don't catch a Cross Chop. But now I can shield this up. They go for an Aerial Ace, but it's actually a Galarian Stunfisk, which is not ideal. We're going to go for a cross chop. We are boosted. Cross chop does big damage to the Stunfisk. We do make it to a second cross chop, but I will not be able to outpace the Gligar to a charge move, so it just depends. Can we lick farm them down before they make it to an aerial ace? And no, they live with 1 HP and a dream. They make it to the aerial ace, taking out my Teddiursa, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we see Skarmory in the lead, so this isn't so bad for us. We are, of course, going to be resisting their fast moves whilst they're resisting our fast move. We've got non-stab confusion, so not dealing huge damage, but I'm going to shield this up. The opponent's going to full send a Brave Bird. I don't really know why. They swap into Giratina, and we've got an amazing response in the form of Teddiursa. I can just go for a full lick farm down. I don't think they're going to run Dragon Pulse. They actually go for an ominous win there, hoping to boost their attack because that's the only way they could possibly get anything out of this matchup here. But Shadow Ball doesn't do much damage either. We can get the lick farm down. They're going to come in with a Lantern and we can go straight for a Trailblaze. Unfortunately, I did throw after 2 licks there, so on alignment, which gave them a full spark in for free. But it doesn't matter because this actually baits the opponent into throwing their Surf straight away on the CMP tile, which they end up losing, and they double shield their Lantern. So that actually worked out perfectly for me. We're now going to come in with the Machop. We're looking pretty good. I can actually just let anything they throw go through. It's not going to be enough damage to KO from this range. Surf coming through, doesn't do too much damage there. We've got back-to-back cross chops, so I'm going to fire off the first one. Cross chop will get the Lantern very low. A second cross chop looks like it will actually KO from this range, and then we can just come back in with our Shadow Golduck. We've got so much loaded energy, so we're going to go straight for a Liquidation. Liquidation does big damage to the Skarmory, and we've already got a cross chop loaded, so we can fire it off straight away, and cross chop takes out the Skarmory, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we see Shadow Golduck into a Mantine, so bit of an awkward matchup here. Confusions are going to be chunking a fair bit, but we've only got resisted charge moves to throw, so not ideal. We're going to let the first move go through as they go for an Aerial Ace. That does quite a lot of damage to the Shadow Golduck. It's not the bulkiest Pokemon alive. We're going to go for a Liquidation, hoping for a debuff to their defense, and we do get that debuff. And this one I'm thinking, maybe we can come in with our Teddiursa, tank 1 charge move, and go for a full lick farm down, but it will be very close, so let's see if that's something we can do. Going to let the first move go through as they're going to go for another Aerial Ace. Doesn't do too much damage there, but I don't want to tank another one, and unfortunately we're not quite able to get the full lick farm down, so I'm going to fire off a Cross Chop, and Cross Chop actually grabs a shield there, and the opponent wants to fire off this charge. We've grabbed a shield back from me, so I'm going to use my shield there, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Lantern, so I can fire off a Trailblaze here. Trailblaze going to hit for super effective damage. It's going to boost my attack, but I am going to swap out immediately because otherwise they would just be able to fully spark farm me down. We're actually able to make it to a cross chop before the opponent throws any of their energy, which is pretty huge for me. And at this point, I'm going to shield this up. If they go for a Thunderbolt here, actually no, they go for a Surf, but I will actually make it to a cross chop before they make it to the next charge move, which is absolutely huge for me as we take out the Lantern there. But they've got Greninja, and Greninja can even outpace a Machop to the charge move. I think Cross Chop probably KOs from that range, but they do barely outpace me by 1 turn. They then get a Water Shuriken farm down up against the Teddiursa, and unfortunately we do lose that game, but GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Skarmory in the lead, so once again, I'm going to overfarm here, and the opponent throws on alignment, which is absolutely huge for me. The opponent's going to go for a Sky Attack. We can now go for the Liquidation, hoping for a defense drop here, but I don't really care if I get it or not. We are not going to get it, unfortunately, but I'm now going to go, and the opponent's going to swap into a Licky Tongue, so I come in with my Machop. Going to let the first move go through here, as a Body Slam will do some decent damage here. Licks are going to start adding up, but we can go for the Cross Chop, and Cross Chop is actually going to do a lot more damage than I was expecting it to deal here. And unfortunately, it's not quite enough damage to fully Karate Chop farm them down before we make it to another charge move, but I still will have just about enough energy to make it to yet another Cross Chop up against this Skarmory. Cross Chop coming through, gets the Skarmory into the red health range, and we already have a Cross Chop loaded on my Shadow Golduck as well. So Cross Chop grabs the final shield from the opponent, and at this point they throw on alignment here, so I'm going to shield this up. I'm thinking it's either a Whiscash or a Lantern in the back, but they were at back-to-back charge moves. If it is a Lantern, I think Teddiursa actually won't be able to win this game here, but it is a Shadow Whiscash, so of course Trailblaze will easily one-shot them. We just need to live whatever this charge move is. They're going to go for a Skull. That does huge damage, way more damage than I was expecting, but we do live it. They also don't get the debuff, but Trailblaze easily one-shots the Shadow Whiscash, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game we see Altaria in the lead. So when I've run Golduck in the past, I have run it with Ice Beam. Unfortunately not running the ice coverage anymore. And here the opponent's going to swap out into Azumarill. Now we don't have a great response to Azumarill either. Of course, Teddiursa can boost its attack with Trailblaze, but it does take a lot of damage from the bubbles, and even something like an Ice Beam is going to do quite a lot of damage. So I'm going to shield this up. I think eventually I will swap now into my Teddiursa. I can live a play rough from full health, so I think I just have to let this go through. Of course, my energy is completely walled by the Altaria, so it's not really any point shielding that because they're just going to be able to fully Dragon Breath farm me down anyways. So I come out with very minimal health. We've got back-to-back cross chops loaded though, so hopefully grab a shield here. I am Purified. I could be running Return like I am on my Machop, but unfortunately the opponent does no shield. Cross chop really doesn't do much damage. It's non-stab and it is of course resisted. We're going to come back in with the Golduck and the opponent makes the catch onto their Lantern. So catching a resisted liquidation, not ideal for me whatsoever, and unfortunately this looks like it's game over. We do get the defense drop, so Machop going to be dealing even more damage now with the cross chop. I'm going to farm to over back-to-back cross chops here. I'm hoping they just let this go through and it KOs, but they do use their shield. We're now going to go for another cross chop. Can this KO the Lantern from this range? No, it barely doesn't quite take them out there, so I have to let Machop go down, otherwise they can just Dragon Breath farm me down and go for a Sky Attack into my Golduck, but either way, it's game over as they can just Dragon Breath, farm down the Shadow Golduck, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game we see Bastiodon in the lead, so we are going to stay in this lead matchup. Ideally want to line my Machop here, but I'm thinking if they've got like a Shadow Victory Bell, and whilst we are going to take super effective damage from the Razor Leaf, actually the Confusions will really chunk. So let's see, we are going to shield this up properly, shield it up at the last second, and the opponent is going to swap into their Shadow Victory Bell. We barely make it to a liquidation, which is huge. This is resisted damage, but it puts them into range where we can fully lick farm them all the way down, and now here at this point we should be looking pretty good. They come back in with the Bastiodon, so I'm actually going to swap into my Machop, and you're going to realize that that is actually a costly mistake here, as the opponent is going to be running a Shadow Gallade in the back. Once again, I thought it was going to be the Wigglytuff, so I'm thinking, might as well just sacrifice the Machop, get a ton of energy, and then fire off cross chops, but it's Shadow Gallade, and it looks like the opponent might be able to double shield in this matchup, and then fully Psycho Cut farm me down, and if they're able to do that, then we are in huge trouble, because Shadow Gallade absolutely deadly with energy. We're going to go for a cross chop there, and I'm hoping, oh, the opponent makes a huge mistake there. They thought they'd KO there, so they just blind throw the close combat, making sure they got it off before I'm able to get off a charge move, and unfortunately for them, they debuff their defense. We can now just fully lick farm them down. I didn't even need to throw a charge move, and we're able to take that game, but so unfortunate by the opponent there. Trying to get ahead there and throw straight away, expecting the KO, and it didn't happen. We live with 1 HP, and yeah, really unfortunate. But into next battle, we're going to see a Gallade, and once again, another different fast move from the Gallade, so very strange. They are running Charm. Charm, not ideal for us because we're taking quite a lot of damage here, but we do get the lick farm down. They come back in with the Bastiodon. We're going to go for a cross chop here, and cross chop is double super effective. It is non-stat, but it does huge damage there. I'm now going to overfarm to the point where I think I will be able to make it to another cross chop if they let this go through, which they do, and we do make it to the cross chop up against the Skeledirge. I'm hoping to grab a shield here, of course. They've got both shields remaining. They shield the Skeledirge with a resisted cross chop. And I could come in with my Machop here and try and grab the final shield, but that's very risky. If the opponent does no shield, Machop can do literally nothing. But we do grab a shield with the cross chop bait, and at this point we can very easily outpace them to a liquidation. I'm going to safely shield up the Disarming Voice, make it to liquidation, and this will certainly be enough damage from this range to take out the Skeledirge, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we see Shadow Golduck into a Goodra. So we are going to stay in this lead matchup here. Of course, they have to go for a Power Whip to deal big damage with the charge move, but they swap, they catch the charge move onto their Feraligatr. So I make a bit of a mistake here. I was thinking, of course, we're going to be double resisting the Shadow Claw damage on my Teddiursa, but licks really aren't going to add up that much. So I might as well try and chunk them with the confusion damage, and then I swap out, but I've given them so much loaded energy. So going to take the first move here as they go for a Hydro Cannon. I definitely should have just swapped out way sooner than this, because now I have to shield anyway, so yeah, might as well come in and get more energy on my Teddiursa, because if the opponent wants to, they could fire off the Aqua Tail, but instead they are going to allow me to make it to a cross chop, which they let go through, but they can fully Dragon Breath farm me down, so this isn't looking too good for us. I am going to wait out my Switch Clock as long as possible, come in with the Machop. I have to just let this move go through, expecting it to just be an Aqua Tail, which it is, and they come in with a Gallade, not a Shadow Gallade, but still, this is going to be a Leaf Blade. It probably probably would KO, and if it doesn't, by the time they make it to Leaf Blade number 2, it will certainly take us out. So my only win condition here is landing a return, and we do connect. We land the return. We're going to try and swap out, but we're not quite able to do so. The opponent can fire off a second Aqua Tail, taking out the Machop, and they can just Dragon Breath, farm down my Shadow Golduck, and unfortunately we do lose that game, but we made it incredibly close. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see another Dugong in the lead. So again, a bit of an awkward matchup here, because if I want to throw it on good timing, then unfortunately they're going to debuff me first, or they're just going to full send a drill run, which is much better for me, because now I can go for the back-to-back cross chops. First one coming through is going to deal big damage there. I thought about swapping into my Machop and going for a Karate Chop farm down, but they would still be able to debuff me anyway, so the opponent lets the Dugong go down there, and the opponent is going to come in with Annihilate. I just blind swap out there. Probably should have stayed in, but I don't really know what I'm going to be able to do here. Anyways, going to shoot up the Ice Punch. I will be able to go for a Trailblaze just before they counter farm me down. But it's not looking too good here. Trailblaze actually goes no shielded by the opponent. We get the full lick farm down at the same time. But they've got a Shadow Gallade, and yeah, this is just game over, unfortunately. Last time we were able to land a return, but this time there's no chance in that happening. They've still got both their shields remaining. They're going to be shielding everything. We go for a cross shot. My only hope here is if I live a Leaf Blade and make it to another cross shot before they can fully farm me down, but we actually live with the worst amount of HP remaining, because they could just fully farm me down at that point as I make it to the next charge move. And because I had to swap out there, I'm also not able to make it to a charge move on the Golduck. But this Shadow Gallade is absolutely going to destroy the rest of my team, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Azumarill in the lead, so a pretty okay matchup for us. Not great, because of course my charge moves are going to be resisted, but I can hit for big damage with these confusions whilst I am resisting the bubble as well. We're going to go for 2 confusions, go for a liquidation, and hopefully we can get a defense drop with the liquidation. We grab a shield, we don't get the defense drop, but a shield is also pretty good. Going to go for a second liquidation here. Liquidation, going to grab both shields from the opponent. I'm not really sure why they're double shielding their Azu, but at this point, just going to let the play rough go through. It takes out the Shadow Golduck. I can come in with my Teddiursa, they come in with an Umbreon. I'm actually going to fire off a cross chop here, which is maybe questionable, but I'm thinking now I'm only going to have to go for 1 charge move with my Machop, and I can overfarm quite a lot. It depends what their secondary charge move is. If it's Last Resort, it should be fine. They actually fire off a Foul Play anyway, so maybe they just don't have a Legacy Umbreon here, and it looks like they are going to just go straight Foul Play in this matchup, so possibly could have overfarmed even more than that, but it doesn't really matter. Cross Chop takes out the Umbreon from that range. We're now going to overfarm as much as possible up against the Azumarill, fire off a return, and return will certainly be enough to take out the Azu, and the opponent's got a Bomber Snow in the back, so we will make it to a cross chop here. Unfortunately, we don't quite make it to the back-to-back charge moves, but it doesn't matter. That does huge damage, puts them into range where I can just lick farm them down. I'm going to safely shoot up the charge move. It's just a weather ball. We would have lived it anyways, but we're able to lick farm down the Bomber Snow, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Superior in the lead, so not ideal. Going to say swap into my Teddiursa. The opponent is going to stay in. They're actually just going to fire off an Aerial Ace, which is fine with me. Aerial Ace, we can tank that fairly comfortably. We are now going to overfarm here just slightly, go for a cross chop. Unfortunately, cross chop not going to do too much damage here, but it does get them into the yellow health range, so I am going to probably shield this up. No, going to let it go through. I thought I might live it and make it to another cross chop, but unfortunately, it doesn't quite take us out, and they get the farm down anyway, so probably worst case scenario there. We're going to come in with the Machop to make it to another Aerial Ace. I should be able to shield this and make it to back-to-back cross chops and win CMP on the second cross chop here. So let's see, does the opponent want to shield their Superior? They're going to shield. I thought they'd fire off the Aerial Ace straight away, and the opponent actually banks the energy. Smart play. They don't throw, probably knowing that they're going to lose CMP. Not really sure, but we can now go for a cross chop into the Licky Tongue. The opponent is going to let that go through. I'm hoping at this point that I can make it to a second cross chop, and the opponent will be shielding this up, so I can just come in with my Machop and go for a full Karate Chop farm down. But the opponent is going to do exactly that. We can come in. I'm not going to shield this up. I know that the Superior does have a charge move loaded. I'm going to go for a full Karate Chop farm down. Possibly could have thrown a charge move there to take them out, but let's see what we're going to do now. The opponent comes back in with Superior. I thought about trying to go for a Karate Chop farm down, but I realized I am way too low, and the opponent's actually got a Shadow Empoleon in the back, so if I just shielded up the Body Slam there up against that Licky Tongue, I could have very easily Karate Chop farm down the Empoleon there, but unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we're going to see a Lantern in the lead, so I'm going to say swap immediately into my Machop, go for a cross chop before the opponent can even make it to a Surf. Cross chop, going to deal some decent damage here. it actually won't quite two-shot them. So what I'm actually going to do here is shield up the Thunderbolt. Because they full sent a Thunderbolt, I will now make it to a return. Cross shot would not KO from this range, but do they shield here? Unfortunately, they do shield the return, which is certainly not what I was expecting. They can now go for a Surf, and Surf will be enough damage from this range to take us out. So it didn't really matter that we full sent the return there, because of course it does cost the same energy as 2 cross shops anyway, so we wouldn't have been able to get off both cross shops there. But speaking of cross shop, we can go for a cross shop into the Lantern, taking them out. They come in with a Skarmory, so I'm going to overfarm just slightly here, throwing before they make it to the Sky Attack or the Brave Bird. We're going to go for a cross shop. Cross shop does some decent damage there, gets them into the yellow health range, and the opponent overfarms, allowing me to make it to another cross shop. Cross shop will be grabbing the final shield from the Skarmory, and I can just let the move go through. The opponent's going to full send a Brave Bird for some reason. I don't really know why. And that will allow me to just fully confusion farm them down here. I'm not sure what they're doing. They full send another Brave Bird there. They don't even swap out to clear the debuff either. And they've got a Skeledirge in the back. So I don't think it really mattered, as a Liquidation will be one-shotting the Skeledirge. And I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there, and into possibly the final battle of this video, we lead into a Bastiodon. So another matchup where it's a bit awkward, that I'm not really sure if I want to try and align my Machop here, swap out, because of course they are resisting the confusion damage, so this probably is the worst matchup of my 3 Pokemon up against a Bastiodon, although the Cross Shop still does about half their health. But we're going to shield this up, the opponent going to go for a Stone Edge, and the opponent is going to stay in with their Bastiodon, so we are going to overfarm here, go for the Cross Shop just before they make it to the next Stone Edge. Cross Shop is going to be grabbing a shield from the opponent. We're going to go for another cross shot. Are we going to grab both shields here? We are, and now I'm going to swap into my Machop. I don't think they've got the Wigglytuff this time, otherwise they probably just would have let the Bastiodon go down. But they're going to go for a Stone Edge. It's resisted, but it is Wigglytuff this time around, so super annoying. We're going to go for a return. Return is going to do big damage to the Wigglytuff. Once again, only would have got off 1 charge boost, so it makes sense to go for that return. We're now going to come in. I tried to get at least 1 confusion in there, but they try and farm me down before we get there, and now they're actually able to outpace me to an Icy Wind. Icy Wind going to debuff my attack. Of course, we have Trail Blaze, so we can boost it up once again if we need to, but it's looking like it's game over. They come back in with the Bastiodon. I can KO with a cross shot, but it's probably a Shadow Victory Bell in the back. And there it is, and unfortunately they can just razorly farm me down, and unfortunately we do lose that final game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.